Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you're catching us. Karibuni sana to Wakeji Kamore's YouTube channel. I'm not Wakeji Kamore, I'm a friend of Wakeji Kamore known as Edwin Kema or simply Edu. I am privileged to serve as a pastor at a ministry known as Collective Worship, and it's a great honor and privilege to be hosted here. On Wakeji's YouTube channel. I've been looking forward to this, and so it's finally here. So thank you guys for having me, and also for lending us your ears and your hearts, just to continue to allow Wakeji and the people she invites to this channel to speak the word of God to your hearts and to just bless you. And today, I have the privilege of taking us through the introduction of the Book of Esther. Yay! Esther is it's a very interesting book. Let me say that. We'll get to that, but it's the 17th book of the Old Testament. I think let me just first of all say congratulations, Okeji, for going through the books of the Old Testament from Genesis now to Esther. Sorry. Yeah, so you've done well, and I pray that as you continue to do this, guys will be blessed as they do this, as they listen. And yeah, so the book of Esther is the 17th book of the Old Testament, as I said earlier. It's actually one of the two books in the Bible, or even in the OT rather, that derive their name from female characters. The other one is Ruth, and so it's a special book in many ways. So if you think about it, and one thing I've come to know about the Word of God, about the Bible, is that every title that is given to a book in the Bible has a meaning. And so Esther, you think about it, let me say this before I even say that, it's mine, that is a thought that has come to my mind. A meme was going around the other day that was saying before Esther was black and broke, but when Esther see God, Esther establish. So today we are here looking at what that establish really is. But the name Esther actually is derived from a Babylonian goddess. And this is similar to what happened back in the days of Daniel. If you remember Daniel chapter 1 verse 7, when his name was changed from Daniel to Belteshazzar. And so they used to be a name change, especially for them who used to come from home in Israel. Again, you're going to see this much later, to captivity because of culture, of assimilation into those cultures, and just guys in that culture wanting them to be like them in one or another. So yeah, Esther was not her original name. Her original name was Hadassah, but Esther was a name she was given. Again, it was derived from a Babylonian goddess. But now her real name, her name was Hadassah. Hadassah is a very beautiful name. I've had people called Hadassah, and Hadassah actually means a myrtle. This is an attractive shrub. It has white flowers, which biblically symbolized recovery and establishment of God's promises. And this is very important to us as we look at this book, because one thing about the book of Esther is God is fulfilling His promises. The promises He had made back to the time of Abraham. And so this is a very interesting name that she holds. Again, as I said earlier, whenever you read through the books of the Bible, always know that whatever title is given to that book, especially in the Old Testament, it is very significant to the story that is about to unfold in the book. And this is interesting. We're talking about God's promises, but actually Esther is the only book in the Bible, and this is a fact, that does not say the word God, or does not call God overtly. If you read from the first to the last chapter, you realize there's no place that says God said and God did and they sought God and they prayed to God. There is nowhere where the name God is mentioned, and that has been a big issue, because many people have asked, okay, it doesn't mention God, should he be in the Bible? But when you see God, if you read this story from beginning to end, you will see God in between the lines. You will see God everywhere, in every action, behind everything that is happening, just to make his plans come to pass. And so that's an interesting fact about Esther. If you want to take the challenge, please take the challenge. As you're doing this, read through it. You will see no mention of God, but you will see God working out this story. I'm reminded of the song that says God will work it out, and that's an amazing way of actually thinking about the book of Esther. And so if you think about the timeline of the book of Esther, let me just take you back. I know you guys have are yet to go through the book of Isaiah. But when you get there, you'll realize there's a story and there's a timeline. But even if you go back to the book of First Kings, Second Kings, and also First and Second Chronicles, there's a lot of events that happen. It's like the nation of Judah and Israel is going through a downward spiral. And so there's a period in time where the Babylonians were the superpower of the world. And so they came and took over Jerusalem, took over Israel, and took them into captivity. Basically, what it meant was it's like a colonization where you're being colonized and you are being taken to the colonizer's land. And if you read through like Isaiah chapter 39, 2 Kings 24, Daniel chapter 1, you will see this happening. And so because God did this as a way of punishing them because they had turned back and turned their backs towards God. But much later, 47 years later, the first incident happened in 586. Much later, 47 years in 539 BC, the Babylonians who had taken power from Israel, from the Israelites, and had made them, brought them to captivity, were also overthrown. And that is the story we have in Daniel chapter 5 when the king then was overthrown, and there's a king who came who was called Darius, if I'm not wrong. I think I need to check that again. There's a king who came known as Darius, who became now the king of the Persian kingdom, which was the kingdom that came. So they called it the Medo-Persian kingdom. And this at that time was a superpower. You think about it, these guys were superpower because their kingdom was as big as, it stretched all the way from India to Libya in Africa. So you can imagine how big that kingdom was. So that was the kind of kingdom these guys were dealing and these guys had at that point in time. And that's where the story of Esther happens. And so the story of Esther actually specifically begins in 479 BC, during the time of King Xerxes, who was the king of Persia. Again, that name is hard to pronounce, but it's just Xerxes. Again, he was the king of that amazing big kingdom. It was a huge kingdom. It was a world superpower, again, as I said earlier, and it was going through a season of prosperity in terms of political and economic advancement. And this we are going to see in our first chapter. But this is where we find the story of Esther. And so the Israelites, the likes of Esther and all the people who are from Israel, are in captivity in different parts of this kingdom. And that's where we find themselves. And interesting for us to notice and to know that this book is not set in a country where these guys were worshippers of Yahweh. Yes, the Israelites were worshippers of Yahweh, but the guys with whom they were living in, the guys, the Persians, were not worshippers of Yahweh. And that's a very interesting fact, as you're going to see much later in the story. But specifically, the story of Esther is set in the city of, it's called a citadel. So citadels back in the day were cities that were built on top of hills because of military reasons. So because you're on a hill, it's easy for you to see your enemies, and it's hard for your enemies to conquer you because, you know, fighting going uphill during that time, where you had foot soldiers and you had horses, was hard. And so it was set in the citadel of Susa. I wish I had the opportunity to show you the photos. It was a beautiful city. If you can just take time and just look into that. And so that's the book of Esther. Again, as I said earlier, one important fact I think out of all this is the fact that Esther does not mention the name of God, but God is seen in every detail. So I hope as we continue to unravel and just continue to dig deeper into this story, we are going to see how that is and what plays along. Again, the book is filled with some characters that play a big and important role in the unfolding of this story, Esther being one of them, and the rest you're going to see as we come into the story of Esther. And so I'm glad to do this. I pray we'll be blessed. I pray that God will speak to us. I pray that God will minister to us. And I pray that God will give us strength, like he did in this book, as again we're going to come to see, to just pursue him and just to do what he wants us to do. So be blessed, guys. See you in the next episode. Thank you.